Hey there! You might know Barak in Spanish. Our channel has over 400,000 subscribers. Well, this is the official English version. Same content, same passion. Now in your language. But we need your help to grow. Hit that subscribe button and join us on this new journey. Now, let's get back to the video. The Colombian national team carries a collection of traumas accumulated throughout his languid history. At the 1990 World Cup in Italy, Cameroon eliminated them thanks to a reckless madness of their goalkeeper René Higuita, who got the ball stolen while trying to dribble outside the box against the African striker Roger Milla. 4 years later, Andrés Escobar scored the most tragically famous own goal in history, in favor of the United States. But if we're talking about the most humiliating defeat, you don't have to go back that far. Colombia had just shown at Brazil 2014 and played a respectable tournament in Russia 2018. They were ranked 10th in the FIFA World Rankings. Ecuador, on the other hand, had to embarrass their people in the second to last World Cup and didn't even qualify for the most recent one. They were ranked 64th in the FIFA rankings, the worst in CONMEBOL, only ahead of Bolivia. And so we arrive at the afternoon of November 17, 2020, at the Casablanca Stadium in Quito, in the middle of the pandemic. In the 38th minute, Ecuador 4, Colombia 0. With Camilo Vargas in goal, Jason Murillo and Davinson Sanchez in defense, Mateus Uribe, Juan Cuadrado and Jefferson Lerma in midfield, and James Rodriguez, Luis Diaz and Duban Zapata in attack. The team led by Carlos Queiroz was mercilessly crushed 6-1. The renowned Portuguese manager was instantly fired. Colombia never recovered, and since then, Ecuador climbed onto a cloud they haven't come down from, not even 5 years later. Never in the history of football had a national team been unbeatable for so long. Spain won the Euro in 2008, then the 2010 World Cup in South Africa, followed by the 2012 Euro. With that silverware, they arrived at the 2014 World Cup in Brazil. Their first opponent, the Netherlands, a rematch of the grand final played 4 years earlier. It didn't seem like a particularly even match. Spain was the best team in the world according to the FIFA rankings. The Netherlands ranked just 15th. Vicente del Bosque's team lined up with Iker Casillas, Sergio Ramos, Gerard Piqué, César Azpilicueta, Jordi Alba, Sergio Busquets, Xavi Alonso, Xavi Hernández, Andrés Iniesta, David Silva, and Diego Costa. According to plan, Spain took a 1-0 lead with a penalty goal by Xavi Alonso. Everything seemed normal until the 44th minute, when just before halftime, Robin van Persie equalized with one of the most iconic headers in football history. In the second half, Louis van Gaal's team unleashed an unexpected Spanish catastrophe. 2 goals from Arjen Robben, another from Van Persie, and one more by Stefan de Vrij lit up the scoreboard with a 5-1 that hurt, really hurt. So much that, ever since, Spain has done nothing but disappoint in World Cups. CONMEBOL qualifiers for the 1994 FIFA World Cup in the United States. Argentina had been world champions just 7 years earlier, runners-up in 1990, Copa America champions in 1991, and again in 1993. In fact, between 1990 and 1993, Argentina won 31 matches unbeaten. And then, just 2 months after defeating Mexico in the Copa America held in Ecuador, the albicelestes suffered the worst humiliation in their history, at a packed Estadio Monumental. Argentina had never lost a home qualifier, let alone conceded 5 goals, until that epic thrashing delivered on September 5, 1993 by Colombia, led by Carlos El Pibe Valderrama, 2 goals by Freddy Rincón, a brace from Faustino Esprilla, and a 5th by Adolfo El Tren Valencia. It was the final match of the qualifiers. Colombia clinched their ticket to the World Cup, and Argentina had to fight for theirs in an intercontinental playoff against Australia. It could have been even worse if Paraguay had beaten Peru, a team with 0 points, instead of drawing 2-2. They would have overtaken the Celeste. Argentina, already traumatized, would have missed the World Cup altogether. Generally, the most lopsided beatings in World Cup history feature a helpless underdog as the victim, like El Salvador, who swallowed 10 Hungarian goals in Spain '82, or Zaire, who conceded 9 to Yugoslavia in West Germany '74, or Saudi Arabia crushed by 8 German goals in Korea-Japan 2002, North Korea, who led in 7 against Portugal in South Africa 2010, or Costa Rica, who also conceded 7, this time to Spain in Qatar 2022. Uruguay is one of those ruthless teams that never showed mercy to fragile opponents in World Cups. They trashed Bolivia 8-0 in Brazil 1950 and scored 7 against Scotland in Switzerland 1954. During 1986 World Cup in Mexico, the historic predator became an easy prey for a debutant, Denmark, ironically at the Estadio Nezahualcóyotl, a place known for the robbery. The Danish team picked Uruguay's pocket and stripped them of their pride. The English national team has been humiliated so many times that it's hard to choose just one. For example, the loss to Iceland in the round of 16 at Euro 2016, or the 0-4 thrashing by Hungary at Wolverhampton Stadium, which led to England's relegation in the 2023 Nations League, or the home defeat to Croatia at Wembley that left them out of Euro 2008. After World War II and following a 12-year pause in the World Cup, the tournament returned with a special kind of intrigue, the chance to finally see England, the inventors of football, measure themselves on the world stage. Quite the opposite, a team of amateur players. These were the US national team's most recent results heading to the World Cup. A 5-2 loss to Cuba, 9-0 to Italy, 11-0 to Norway, 5-0 to Northern Ireland, 4-0 to Scotland, and back-to-back losses to Mexico, 6-0 and 6-2. They were, by all accounts, the San Marino of the mid-20th century. The US didn't even train before flying to Brazil. British newspapers predicted the obvious, an easy English win. Can you imagine England beating the US in a basketball World Cup today? That's the kind of upset we saw that unbelievable afternoon in Belo Horizonte. The makeshift American team pulled off a 1-0 win and eliminated England's professional stars in the group stage. Among all the defeats in the history of the Mexican national team, there are 2 that will haunt for eternity. World Without End and Men. Losing to the United States in the round of 16 at the 2002 Korea-Japan World Cup is, and always will be, the most heartbreaking result. Losing 7-0 to Chile in the 2016 Copa America is the most shameful scoreline. Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara, California. Juan Carlos Osorio's Mexico came into the quarterfinals with a 22-game unbeaten streak, over a year without a loss, after having dragged down the country's reputation in South America by fielding alternate squads in the 2011 and 2015 Copa America tournaments. Mexico was finally showing up with its A team and playing, for all practical purposes, at home. They once again felt like a giant in CONMEBOL, and then Chile entered the scene. El Tri was crushed with 4 goals from Edu Vargas and 2 from Edson Puig, and one from Alexis Sanchez. Here are the 11 Mexican players who were humiliated in California: Guillermo Ochoa, Néstor Araujo, Héctor Herrera, Héctor Moreno, Javier Hernández, Jesús Dueñas, Paul Aguilar, Andrés Guardado, Jesús Corona, Miguel Layún, and Irving Lozano, plus Raúl Jiménez, Diego Reyes, and Carlos Peña, who, far from fixing anything, only made the catastrophe worse in the second half. Losing 6-0 to Spain is one of the lowest, most scandalous moments in the history of the German national team. But it happened in the Nations League and during the pandemic, so it more or less flew under the radar. Not so much the humiliation that took place in 2001 at the Olympic Stadium in Munich, where Germany, the Mannschaft, lost 1-5 to England in a qualifier for the 2002 Korea-Japan World Cup. That match was supposed to be a farewell celebration for the Olympic Stadium, where Germany will never play again. But the one who hijacked the party was Michael Owen, who scored a hat-trick that night and went on to win the Ballon d'Or. With that result, England qualified for the World Cup, while, for the first and only time in history, Germany was forced to suffer the shame of qualifying for the World Cup via the playoff. Semifinals of the 2014 World Cup in Brazil. The host nation was facing Germany at the Mineirão Stadium. Brazil, of course, was the favorite. They were playing at home, plus no European team had ever won a World Cup held on South American soil. The massacre was so immediate that by the 29th minute, the score was already 5-0. One from Thomas Müller, one from Miroslav Klose, who, just to add salt to the wound, broke Ronaldo's all-time scoring record right then and there, two from Toni Kroos, and another from Sami Khedira. From that point on, Germany stopped considerably. In the second half, André Schürrle scored two more to complete the ultimate humiliation. A five-time world champion crushed like never before, at home, in a World Cup, in the semifinals. The perfect tragedy. After the resounding failure of not qualifying for the 1990 World Cup in Italy, the French national team, featuring Jean-Pierre Papin and Eric Cantona, arguably the best attacking duo in the world at the time, had a score to settle. But they failed again, this time missing out the 1994 World Cup in the United States. No one will have believed it when, with 2 match days left, France had 13 points, Sweden 12 and Bulgaria 10. 2 teams from each group will qualify. So a draw was all France needed against an Israel side that had been weak throughout and hadn't won a single one of its 8 matches. The game was played at Parc des Princes. France was leading 2-1 with 7 minutes to go, and somehow they managed to lose to Israel. 9 years later, France, then reigning world champions, lost the opening match of the 2002 Korea-Japan World Cup to their former colony, debutant Senegal, a humiliating defeat that eventually kept France from advancing to the round of 16. A pathetic and painful loss, yes, but still not as disgraceful as the collapse against Israel in 1993. Lately, the Italian national team seems unable to go 5 minutes without embarrassing itself, but never more than during the qualifiers of the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. Italy had already inexcusably missed out the 2018 World Cup in Russia. They redeemed themselves by winning the Euro 2020, only to sink even lower a year later when they lost to North Macedonia. North Macedonia! They were the ones who knocked Italy out of the tournament for a second straight World Cup, and not even in a 2-legged playoff, but in a single match, played in Palermo, Italy. North Macedonia won 1-0.